Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today I'm going to show you how to create a really cute cloud effect that doesn't really cost you any fancy templates or stencils. I'm going to show you how to make this out of basic paper, scraps and some circular die cuts. So you can achieve this gorgeous cloudy effect to use as background for your projects. If you're interested, please stay tuned and I'll show you how we do it. Okay, so to get started, you can see I have got a selection of dies here. I've got lots of different circle dies. Now, these ones are straight edged, i.e. they don't have any stitching, but others that I have do have stitching. It doesn't actually matter that much, but what I'd also suggest is have a look at other die sets you've got. This, for instance, is part of a label or tag die set where it's a circle with a little circle in the middle. It obviously cuts out like a donut where you've got a centerpiece that pops out, but all you can do is just stick that down with a piece of sellotape. You don't need to worry too much. You can see I've cut lots and lots of lovely little circles out. Some of them have got fluted edges. Again, it doesn't really matter. Clouds have fluffy edges. So basically all my strips are here that I've cut this stuff out of. Just run it through your die machine a whole load of times and basically end up with a whole load of circles. So I'm going to push them to the top of my mat. I've now got just a piece of standard scrap card. Basically, this is something I was actually testing some colouring on. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this down very roughly to approximately about 8 by 8, I think. Actually maybe a little bit smaller than that, probably 7 by 7. So it doesn't need to be very precise, just literally cutting that down with my craft knife. Because what we want to end up is a square piece of card that we can then use as the base for our cloud template or stencil. So I've ended up with a nice piece of card there that I can use for another project, which is good. Okay, so here we are. We've got our piece of card. Doesn't matter the state it's in, could be anything basically. So what we're going to do is we're literally just going to put some glue on the edge of the card. So I'm using my little bottle here with a fine applicator just to put some glue there. And then we're going to stick these down so that they're poking over the edge of the card at different levels. Basically, this is what's going to create our cloud template that we can then use to create fluffy clouds on our cards. So if you're going to go over the top, you tend to overlay all of these. Just put another little blob of glue, obviously on the circle next to it. And what you want to do is you want to use a variety of different sizes. Clouds aren't very symmetrical. So go up, go down, go all over the place. Now, these little teeny ones, I would save them typically for the edge because you want to usually end up with a cloud on the edge that's smaller. So it usually goes down towards the edge. And then I would use a small one and poke it out so that you've actually got a little edge to play with. So in this scenario, I'm actually going to stick some glue there. And then I'm going to stick that one like thus. So that's actually overhanging. I've got some basic sellotape here. I'm just going to use a tiny little bit of sellotape on my little circle with a hole in it, just to hold that in place. You might want to use some tweezers just to help if that's a little bit fine or a little bit delicate. And then similarly, just a blob of glue, and we stick that on the end. Don't worry about that little bit of sellotape, that will come off when I cut it with my scissors. Cool. So you can see now we've built up quite a nice cloud shape. We're going to continue that along with some bigger clouds. That's upside down, but it doesn't really matter too much. Just wipe that glue off. There you go, and we're ending up with quite a nice cloudy shape. So what I would do is I would do that at the top and the bottom. So turn this around now, which leaves that time to dry, and repeat the same thing along the other side. Now, I've got one that I made previously, which I'll actually pull out and show you guys, which I have used many times. So I know lots of different companies do cloud templates, but I just made my own, to be honest. But using exactly this same method, and it's been absolutely fine. I've used it for several things. I actually did the same with hills as well. There you go, there's my one. You can see, much used, much loved. So basically lots of fluffy clouds, lots of fluffy clouds, lots of fluffy clouds. The reason you want multiple sides is if you're doing clouds in two different colours, the difference between this one and a lovely plastic one that you might buy from Lavinia or Crafty Individuals, you can't easily clean this. Once it's got purple ink on it, you can't then go over it in pink without pulling the purple on. So the reason for having different sides is that you can use it for different colours on the same project and you don't have to wait for it to dry. So that's worth bearing in mind. But for our example today, I'm literally just going to chuck 2 lots of clouds in there. So I'm using some big circles, popping a little bit of glue on the neighbour as I'm going. You can either do it underneath or do it before you lay the other one down. It doesn't matter which way around you do it. Don't worry too much about the stitching. Occasionally you do get a little bit through the stitching, but it doesn't really matter. It's a handmade card. People know, you know, that it's been made by hand, so they're not too worried usually. This one, when I cut it, I went off the paper slightly. It doesn't really matter because look, I can just do that. So that's absolutely fine. Got some glue on there. Let's just get rid of that. And then just keep going to the edge. But you don't always have to have a piece like this that hangs over. You can just end up like that, because what we do is we brush, we tend to then fade it out as we get to the edges. So keep pressing that down just to make sure that's sticking down nicely. And then on this side, again, let's just add another one. And then what I'm going to do here on this side is pretty much mirror this so that I've got a small end on both sides. So I've got another piece here that was cut using that donut. So I'm just going to pull another little tiny piece of sellotape off and stick that on there to hold that centerpiece in. There you go. Just trim that off. Actually, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. We can just do that. So if I blob of glue there, and then use my tweezers. There we go. So now we've got a whole set. There we go. From the back, obviously looks messy, but we're only going to use our brush or our blender this way. So we've now got 2 nice sides. So the one I'd done, you can see I didn't actually do this with the little pieces, but when I used it, it sort of came to me, actually go a little bit further out next time I do it. So there we go, that's it. So, and obviously you can do this with all sorts of things. I've done another one with waves and hills with 4 different layers, so I can use it for creating silhouetted hills and mountains receding into the distance, which again I've used multiple times. So I've got a scrap piece of card here, just any old piece of card will do, and I'm going to use one of these. I think I'll use this top one because it's the one that's probably set the most, and I'm just going to actually show you how to do this. So I'm going to use Tim Holtz Distress Ink in Kitsch Flamingo, and I've got a little domed blender here with a pink on it that's been used already. So take your pink, and always, I would say, stamp off first. So take any scrap piece of paper, because we really don't want too much colour here, and take some off, because otherwise you're going to get a really harsh edge. So what I would do here is I would start on the cloud and work my way off. So circular motion, just letting it go slightly off the edge of the card. As you're working your way around, just keep the pressure even. Circular motion, not pressing at all really, just letting it rest on the paper, going around. You see you're getting a nice edge on the circles. That means you're getting a nice cloudy effect on the paper. So work your way around. Alter the movement as well, so that you don't always just go clockwise, go anti-clockwise as well. That makes sure that you get the ink into all the different gaps. Obviously look at where you're working as well. Here you've got an overlap from left to right, so drag left to right. If you go right to left, the danger is you might lift this one up. So just work your way around. Obviously reapply your ink if you need to. But remember, we're keeping this really light. This is a really subtle effect of clouds with a pinky background. Right, that's probably enough for that one. Take that off. There you go. Magic. You can see you've now got a really lovely subtle cloud effect. What you can do now, flip that around and go the other way, but do it in a different colour. So I'm now going to use Distress Ink again from Tim Holtz in Dusty Concord. So dip in your ink, get some purple onto your pad, take a bit off, and then similarly. So now I often join up the clouds, so you can see there's a little edge there, a leading edge. So I'm going to go in here basically, and I've got to hold my paper because I've not got much edge to play with now. So I'm going to just very gently again start with the circular motion, just getting a little bit of ink on the edges, which means we're getting a little bit of ink on the page. Working your way really gently, hardly any pressure at all. Being a little bit bolder where you want darker colour. But this is a really simple way of achieving that sort of cloud look. Just keep going over. And if you want, you can obviously fill the gap where the clouds are, but I tend to leave quite a lot of white space because this is only just a suggested effect. Okay, take that away, blow off the loose, and there you got a couple of layers of clouds. And then what you can do again, I would then typically go in again with one of the colours. So here, for instance, we've got a half a moon shape. I'd probably go there with the pink again. So pick my pink back up again, a little bit of ink, stamp that off just to get rid of some, and then just maybe do a half one here. Pressing really gently. We don't want heavy, solid lines. We want really gentle, blended lines. Taking that pink up a little bit into the cloud. There we go. And similarly, you could then go across this side as well. And don't forget, you don't have to always use it square. You can turn it. So you might go here, for instance. If I now do this here. There you go. See, we've created a slightly different effect. And there you go. So that's a really simple way of doing clouds at almost no cost whatsoever. All it was, a few simple die cuts stuck to a piece of paper with a bit of glue, a bit of sellotape if you need it, and then you can create a lovely cloudy background like that. Now, the next project I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this and create a cute unicorn card with the unicorn on a hill and the clouds behind it. So if you like this video, keep watching, subscribe to my channel, and I'll show you how to then use it and create a really striking card. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers.